Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Welcome back to the podcast. This week, our guest is Paul Jossey, and he's the principal attorney at Jossey PLLC. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
Yeah. So, Paul, your specialty right now is crowdfunding. How did you kind of, give us your backstory? How did you get to being an attorney, and then why was it that you picked this as kind of your forte?
Yeah, well, it's strange. I didn't really pick this. It kind of picked me. I did not come up here to do sort of business capital. I moved to DC in 2011 for other reasons, but I actually had a friend in the Senate staffer who was at the time putting together the Jobs Act, what became the Jobs Act of 2012.
Right.
And he said, hey, look, you need to get into that. You're a lawyer. You need to get into this. It's going to be great. It's going to blow up. You're going to be a millionaire. It hasn't quite worked out that way.
Right.
But it did sort of come at a time when I was looking to expand my practice. And since about 2017, 2018 or so, I do some other things on the side. I do some policy work. But, as far as my practice, I've just decided to concentrate on what's colloquially known as Reg CF, Regulation Crowdfunding, which was the third exemption, Title III of the Jobs Act of 2012. Which went live in 2016. The SEC had a lot of difficulty putting the regulations together because they had never been in a situation where the general public was investing in small businesses and startups, and so it took them about 4 years to get it all together. So sort of that's where I came, and there's not many people like me in the country. There's plenty of firms that have a securities practice, a startup practice, but as far as people that are just doing Reg CF, there's no more than a handful of us throughout the country.
Right. So what's kept you vested in, besides becoming the billionaire with it? What's really the part that keeps you excited about it?
Well, I'm helping people grow their businesses, right? I'm helping them provide the capital that they need to sort of realize their dreams. That's a really cool thing. People, we were talking offline before that, sometimes people are lost with all of the financing part of this. And I, in undergrad, I was a biology major, so this was all new to me at some point.
Right.
Especially for the last few years, I've sort of taken responsibility for my own biz dev, not outsourced it to other people. And it has been cool to be able to, meet, because it's a federal law. I can do it anywhere in the country. And so I've met people from coast to coast and all kinds of businesses. I mean, you name it. I've had conversations with people so yeah, that part of it has been a lot of fun.
So what makes the crowdfunding different from other types of investing in business or getting loans or whatever?
Sure. So let's start with the different types of crowdfunding, because this is the part that most people still get hung up on. Like I said, it's still less than a decade old. So when people think of crowdfunding, usually they're thinking of GoFundMe, they're thinking of Kickstarter, they're thinking of Indiegogo. They're not thinking of what I do. And so there's nothing wrong with Kickstarter if someone has a product and they do Kickstarter and they've been able to build up a deep customer list from that. That's a great jumping off point to what I do. But what I do is securities. These are securities. They are regulated by the SEC. This is professionalized, democratized investing, opened up to the general public, and this is something that had not happened since the securities laws were federalized in the 1930s up until 2016. There was very few exceptions, but there was really no way to do this on a large scale to be able to take investors from your actual customers. So what you're doing is you are taking your customers, your marketers essentially because they are invested in you, and making those people and your investors all the same person, right? So all of those people are the same person, and they are now incentivized to see you do well. So whether they're taking a little small piece of equity or whether they're taking, giving you out a micro loan or participating in a revenue share, they are heavily invested in your success. And so that's sort of, I say, the first part is when people think of crowdfunding, they don't think of investment crowdfunding or securities crowdfunding. They think of the more traditional kind. And then how is this different from, going to an angel investor, going to a bank, going to some other source of funding, friends and family. Well, first of all, if I say if you have friends and family and you want them to, become investors, this is a great way to do it because the more that you have from your existing network that you can bring in, the more capital you're going to get when you go out into the larger market, right? And so with a bank, when you go to a bank, you are sort of trying to convince them of your business model, and if you succeed, they're going to give you a check. Here, what you're doing is you are uh, multiplying that times potentially hundreds of people and not getting one big check. You're getting a bunch of them. You're putting it all in one bucket, and again, you are making those people sort of invested with you and invested with your success. So this is going to work best with a B2C type company. A restaurant is sort of my prototypical example, but it doesn't necessarily have to. I've worked with B2B companies as well, and I've had success with them, but it's sort of tailor made for something where you're engaging with the public on a day-to-day basis. And what you can do, like I always use the restaurant as the example. You can make them sort of, you can give them a little part of your profit for an extended period of time at some sort of multiplier. They get $1.50 back for every dollar that they invest, and then that might take, over the course of 2, 3, 5 years. But during that time, they're going to keep coming back, right? Because they're invested in you. And so you build that loyalty. But not only that, you can also add the benefits of like a Kickstarter type campaign where you can induce investment through traditionally sort of things that would people want or like about your business. So if it's a restaurant, if they invest this much, they get a free meal or a t-shirt, or maybe they get to, if they invest a lot, they get to, get the top dining hall to themselves for a private whatever. And,
Right.
and the owners are very good at coming up with these types of incentives. And so that's an additional benefit to doing this other than going to a bank and, they're just looking at the numbers, right? Is this going to work? Is this person are they going to be able to pay this off? Whereas when you go out to the crowd, to your existing networks, the people are going to see, it's not just the head, it's the heart too. And you get people, you are able to, my tagline is you turn your company into a movement. You get people that are not just a loan officer, but a bunch of people who want to see you do well.
I mean, this could be a huge game changer for a lot of people, for sure.
Yeah.
So people that are doing this, do they have to be a sophisticated investor?
So no, that was sort of the revolution, if you will, of this is it opened up investing in small businesses and startups to the general public. Now, the issuer or the company will be the one who sets the investment levels on two fronts. They will set the minimum investment for the investors, and that could maybe that's $100. Usually don't get less than that, up to like maybe 500. But then there are also statutory limits within that. So say if you're a line cook at a fast food restaurant, there's a limit on how much you can invest in a Reg CF raise aggregately over 12 months. This almost never comes into play because it's like $2,200. And then up from that, sort of a sliding scale, up into you get to an accredited investor, a high net worth individual has no limits. So that almost never comes into play. What normally comes into play is the company or the issuer says, I want to open up this investment either as equity or debt, to or potential profit share to my existing network, and then from there, you get what are called ambassadors. You have a graduated concentric circle of potential investors, until you get all the way out to outside marketing, which some people take advantage of. So um, anyone can do it. Anyone can become an investor in a small business through this mechanism. Now, I wouldn't say, if you've got one mom and pop shop and that's all you're ever going to do,
Right.
um, this probably isn't the best thing for you because, um, this is it's a federal law, it's a
Right.
federal exemption, it's regulated by the Federal Securities and Exchange Commission. So there's a lot that goes into it,
That's what I was
right?
going to ask you with because this SEC is involved, there's going to be a lot of regulations and stuff like that. Typically, if you're investing in a company or anything like that, you're getting a prospectus, you're getting things, it seems
Yeah.
like every day you're getting something in the mail. How does this relate to that? I mean,
Yeah.
does the same thing happen?
Yeah, well, the same concept happens.
Okay.
So, these securities, these issuers go on what are called portals or intermediaries. There's about 50 of them in the country. There's about five really big ones, where most of the deals are happening. I can give you a couple. WeFunder.com is one. StartEngine.com, MicroVentures.com, seedinvest.com. So there's about five. Republic. I don't know if it's republic.com, but you can just say Republic portal and it'll come up. And so that's where most of these deals are happening. They can also happen through sort of these broker dealers who are just sort of independent. There's costs and benefit. There's pros and cons to doing it both ways. But that's where the exchange happens. You will be listed through one of these intermediaries. The public will go to their site. They'll say invest with you, and then sort of their back end takes over and you invest. Um, and so the legal document that gets filed is what's called the Form C. The Form C has your business plan, it's got your use of proceeds, what you're going to do with the money. It has there's a financial review component of it, an accounting scrutiny component, depending on how much you're offering. And the most people offer, between low six figures up to the most you can offer is 5 million. And then there's a line of demarcation at 1.235 million where you don't have to get an audit. Anything over that, you have to get an audit, which can be much more time consuming and expensive. Below that, you really just need to have a CPA review your financial statements, which can be, it's a lot cheaper. Usually, depending on how complicated the corporate structure is, you're looking at, anywhere from a couple thousand, maybe to 5,000. Usually not that much though. And so, uh, all of these things, there are disclosures, there are risks about your business. There's information, and these are all things that I do, right? I'm the,
Okay. This is
I'm
all your stuff that
right.
you do
And
to
so
help people get there.
all that gets put into a package called the Form C.
Okay.
The Form C is a public document. It's available on the SEC's website, their database called Edgar, and anyone can go look up this document, and it has the offer of securities on it. Most investors, they're really not worried about that. They're going to be looking at your portal page, which is going to be essentially an advertisement for your raise, right?
Right.
Who your company is, what you're offering, what makes you unique in the market, and why people should invest with you. Now, if they want to go look at all the details, they can. There'll be a link to the Form C. Anyone can go look at it. Most people don't, unless they're a much bigger investor looking to invest a much larger amount. Then they're going to be doing more due diligence.
What are some of the common mistakes that people make when it comes to this? Because I mean, obviously, there's only so many of you that are out there. I'm assuming that there's some people that try to do this on their own.
Yeah, well, either people try to do it on their own. They're using these templates that are maybe given to them by the portal, or they're given, or they're just sort of trying to wing it.
Right.
That's one potential pitfall. And then another one is they will they're way too concentrated on what I'm doing, right? They're just file the paperwork, file the paperwork, file the paperwork,
Right.
and I'm like, this is not where your energy should be focused. You've hired me to do this,
Right.
right? This will be fine. I will get this done. And we can file it. We can file it right now. It'll take me about a week to put together a Form C. But if you aren't doing your part, and your part is not the Form C, right? I will, coordinate with you. I will get the information I need and all of that. Your part as the owner, the founder, the issuer, is to be the salesman for your company,
Right.
right? And to go out there and, what they call in politics, dialing for dollars. You need to be not only running your business, but you need to be contacting people. And look, some people like this kind of stuff, some people don't, right?
Right.
I'm kind of an introvert myself. I like to have my nose in a book, but that is just not how this works. You have to be on the phone, talking to people, tapping your network, and having them tap their networks, right? And there are incentives that you can do. If it's an equity, you can give them a better valuation if they come in early. But you as the founder, you are the top salesman for your company, and that's your role in this.
Right.
Not only in the pre-phase, what's called testing the waters, where you are allowed to gauge interest in a potential raise, but then all the way through. And what I do is I handle the back end stuff with the legal. I make introductions to CPAs if they need it. I make introductions to the portals or the broker, depending on which way they want to go. And I'm your sort of your offensive coordinator, but you have to be the quarterback, right? And you have to go out there and do it and be the leader. And so and I've had people, unfortunately, be like, this is just the absolute worst attitude is, I'm the next Steve Jobs. I have something that's so great. All I have to do is put this on the internet, and people will come, and
Right.
that's just not how this works. This is a campaign. It's not like going to a bank and getting a check, right? It's a campaign. It's hard. It's rigorous. But at the end of the day, if you do it and you do it right, there's a huge benefit for you at the end. And the people that do that are the ones that get a lot out of it, and they're ready to do it again the next year.
So what it sounds like to me is that,
And I can tell you a quick story about that if you'd
sure,
like. But
sure.
so when I was first starting out with this, I was working with these guys in California, and there was this lady. She was an Asian lady. She had this crock pot thing, and it worked for her. Like it was a successful business with this cooking product that she had created. And she had a 10,000 person email list or 10,000 people on Facebook that were into it. Like this woman checked all the boxes. Like all she had to do was just go out there and do it. Right. And so, for the first, few months, it was every time that I would reach back out to her, it was like she wanted more information and more information. I was like, okay, here's an example. Here's a portal. Here's my what do you need? And then after about sort of 3 months of this, it sort of kind of dawned on me that, this woman, she's a good businesswoman. She's created a great product. She's created a good business, but she just doesn't have it in her to sort of make this leap. And it is a leap, right?
Right.
Especially back then, 2017, 2018, stuff was brand new. And so it didn't matter, right, that she was gonna be almost, I mean, just do the math. You got 10,000 people that are dedicated to you.
Right.
How many of those do you have to convince? It's not that many. It's not 10%, it's maybe 5%, another 15% is ambassadors, and you're there. Like that's it. You don't
Right.
even need outside market. You don't need anything else. But the people that do the best with this are the people that are determined to do the best with this. They're not necessarily the people that have the best businesses, and so or the best products. And so you have to want to do this. You have to feel it, right?
Right.
Um, and it's a lot easier to go into a bank. But the people that do it and do it right are the ones that put that energy into it, and they're the ones that get the return back.
So really the business owner is, like you said earlier, they're going to their friends and family, but then they're trying to grow that and
Right.
keep growing. So it's just like in any business, it's like, you have to be the salesperson. It just happens, instead of, if it's a restaurant, instead of out trying to get people into your restaurant, you're out talking to people about investing in it, and let you do your job, why that's going on, to let it
Yeah.
percolate.
And once you're live, they're part of the customers are part of it too. Slap a QR code right on the menu.
Right.
Slap slap a QR code right on have the server discuss it. Hey, would you like to you like this restaurant, you like being with us? Invest $100 and this meal is free.
Right.
And you get you get a little share of the profits, at whatever multiplier that is. You think that person's going to come back,
Right.
right? When
Right.
they have when it's
Oh yeah.
between you and somebody else,
Yep.
so they are all a part of it too. And especially if you're working with the public, you get that sort of movement aspect of it, of people
Yeah.
that really just want to be a part of, who who
Company.
who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah. What kind of from, and I know it's going to be a little bit different with everybody, but kind of um timeline wise, kind of,
Yeah.
if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to get this started and so forth, and kind of what's the timeline from the time that they start talking to you to the time it's kind of up and running?
Sure. So, what I usually say is like, look, you come in and we're looking at least 30 days to 6 weeks to prep. That's getting the CPA, the financial part is usually the part that takes the longest.
Right.
But I have to get the Form C together. The team, right? It shouldn't just be you. It's all your
Oh, yeah.
employees and
Don't
all
worry.
of that. That everybody has to be rowing in the boat the same way. And that usually minimum that's going to take about 30 days. Then we're going to have an introduction to the portal. Depending on the portal, they have certain requirements. They're all a little bit different. Again, there's about five big ones. I have relationships with all of them, so I know what their requirements are. Um, and then you get your own page, right? And you start building it out. It's good to have a video. It doesn't need to be too much. A couple of minutes, who you are, what you're doing, why you're better than the competition, and why people should invest with you. You're building that out. You can have a deck you can place on that. So all of these things are getting put into your page. And at that time you can start shopping that page, like sending it out. Now there are disclaimers and there's legal things that
Right.
go with all of this because you're dealing with securities, you're dealing with the federal government. Um, but yeah, so again, this goes back to you're the salesman, right? And so all of that part is part of the sales. So it's a 30 days to 6 weeks. I like to give that extra 2 weeks of cushion.
Sure.
Once you're live, this depends. Like, how much do you have in what I call pre-commits, right? People that they believe in you, they believe in the business, they want to see you succeed, and before we ever even go live, you have that sort of check waiting,
Right.
right? So the bigger that pile is, as I always say, the better you are to the crowd, the better the crowd's going to be to you. The bigger that is, the better response you're going to get from other people. And so you will set your maximum, you'll set your minimum for the raise and your maximum. Your minimum can be as low as like 10,000. Your maximum again can be usually it's either 1.235 or 5. At at any time after you hit your minimum, you have a successful raise. You can pull that money, you can shut it down. You can keep it open. You can do what are called rolling closes, where you take some of it out but leave the raise open. And so you are sort of in control of this process the whole time. But if you just bam, you go out like gangbusters, you hit your minimum within the first 2 weeks, then that's it. The thing's over, and you just shut it down, and you get your money within 21 days. Um, Most people aren't like that, right?
Right.
Most of them are. They'll have the initial surge, they'll plateau at some point, and then you make the decision. You really don't want these things. Technically, they can be open for 12 months. You really don't want them, because you're constantly dealing with it. You're dealing with this in addition to running your business.
Right.
And so, I usually like to shoot for 3 months, max, that you would have it open. And some of these bigger portals like WeFunder I mentioned, you keep it open for longer than that, you'll start getting hints that hey, it's time to shut it down. And so, but you can always do another one as long
Right.
as you are within your 5 million aggregate for the year, right? So if you offer 1 million, you close it out at 200,000. You can do another one 3 months later for and offer another 1 million as long as you're under that 5 million aggregate for the year. And so yeah, I mean, I'd say start to finish, this is a 4 to 5 month deal, 6 months, and then you're sort of assessing, where am I at here? Do I want to hit my own list? Do I want to hit my own networks again? Do I want to bring in maybe some outside marketing? Where am I at? Am I happy with what I've raised and, and willing to shut it down? Do I want to sort of push on? Like, that's a business decision that the issuer will make.
Right, Paul, we've covered a lot of stuff. We could go on. I'm sure you can go on for days on this. What if I not asked you, you wish I had?
Well, I just think I think we actually have covered the most important thing, that this is a campaign.
Right.
It is not easy, and you can't just throw something on the internet and people will come, and I don't care if you are the next Steve Jobs, it does not matter. And then beyond that, let the professionals do their work, let the CPAs, let the lawyers, let the portal account manager do their work. And you should be 99% the salesman or saleswoman for your company through this whole thing. And, most of the people that do that, they have a good experience with it at the end, and they're very happy with what happened.
That's cool. So, Paul, if people like what they hear, they want to reach out to you. How can they reach you?
Sure. So they can just go to my website, which is thecrowdfundinglawyers.com. You can schedule a free 30-minute consultation there. It's crowdfunding lawyers, plural. It makes me look bigger than what I am. And they can also find me on LinkedIn, Paul H. Jossey. And I do an hour of biz dev on LinkedIn every day, and so I'm constantly reaching out to potential people who might want to do this. And so that those are probably the two best ways to do it. And I'm always happy to talk to people who want to explore this.
Great. Really appreciate your time. Enjoyed the talk.
Absolutely, Gary. Me too.
Thanks. This week, my guest was Paul Jossey, and he is the principal attorney at Jossey PLLC. I'll see you guys next week.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.